What's up? Welcome to Serious City Garage. Oh, little baby deer. Out of my Streetfighter today. If you watched the one other moto vlog I have on the channel, I still have the bike. My last GoPro took a dump on me, so hopefully this one's working okay. I just haven't had time to do anything related to this lately. So this is an old GoPro. I'm hoping it'll do the trick until I can get out and get a newer one replaced, or I don't know, I'm kind of thinking about going a different route than GoPro this time, because I've literally never had a good experience with a GoPro. So if you have any recommendations for a different action cam, I'm looking at the Action 4 from DJI and the Ace Pro, I think it is, from Insta360. So if you have any other recommendations, or you have experience with both of those, let me know. I would appreciate it. But today I was just going to talk about whether or not I thought this bike would be a good beginner bike. I've had it for about 2 years now, almost exactly actually, and I've got just about 8,000 miles on it finally. I don't know why I'm saying finally. I'm not in a rush. But yeah, I figured why not give my opinion on whether or not I think it's a good beginner bike. So obviously this is the Streetfighter V4. This is a 2022 model year. I bought it new back in 2022. Spec sheet, you know, that if you look it up online or whatever, horsepower wise it's going to say 208. That's crank horsepower, of course, but still I'm guessing around 170 to 180 at the wheel, which is a lot. The bike I started on, for reference, was a 2007, I think. Yeah, 2007 Yamaha YZF 600R, kind of like a knockoff 600 or R6, I guess. I don't really know what the placement of that bike was. It was, I guess, more of a sport tour than just a sport bike, track bike. So that's what I started on. I really enjoyed that bike. I thought it was an awesome beginner bike. I know a lot of people like to start on 300s and whatnot. Personally, I think a 600 is a good spot to start, but we'll get back to that. A couple hog riders here. So this bike is an 1100cc. It makes around 200 horsepower at the crank. Obviously it's a naked bike, so it's quite a bit more comfortable than your super sports, but it's still very fast. So right off the bat, I'm going to tell you, no, I do not think this is a good beginner bike. It's just really not. The power, I think, is one I would say, you know, your typical, way too much for somebody who's never been on a bike before. But even if that's not a reason, it's just not a good bike to learn how to ride on, because it does not like to go slow. So at slow speeds, it's very juddery and jerks you around, and modulating a clutch is not great on this at low speeds, especially when it's warm outside and the bike is getting hot. Like today, it's, I don't know, getting up, it's supposed to be around 90 degrees Fahrenheit today. And when I ride in that weather, the clutch just, I don't know, it doesn't like it. And I think if I were just starting out riding again, and I got on a bike with this clutch, when it's cold, the clutch is fine, it's perfect. But when it's hot and you're just slowly going through traffic, it's really like juddery and wants to stall out sometimes. And I think if I was starting over again and I first got on this bike, I would probably have not liked it, just for that reason alone. On top of the fact that the throttle is just extremely touchy, which there is low power mode on here, and I guess Ducati says that brings it down to like 155 horsepower, but I don't know, it almost feels less than that to me. I don't know why, maybe it's just placebo, but it does feel pretty slow in low power mode and very unresponsive. So if you're dead set on getting this bike as your first bike, I would recommend putting it in low power mode for a while, because that would probably be a good way to get used to something like this and work your way into it. But I don't think this would be a good idea to buy as your first bike. Maybe something like that would. No, but I think an R6 or a 600 or maybe even a 400. I've never ridden a 400. They kind of came out with those after I started riding bigger bikes. And those are, they seem like they're probably a pretty good beginner bike, the 400s. I don't really recommend a 300 unless you don't have any self-control, which at that point I don't think it should be on a bike. But the 300s, just, you're gonna get bored of that for sure. And from my point of view, like when I was riding 600s and this, obviously, and I had a group of buddies, we were all riding and we were all on 600s or bigger, and then we had one person on a 300. It just wasn't that fun to ride with them because they could keep up in this kind of traffic, but once we got out into the country roads, they were just left in the dust. And then we're feeling bad and we got to slow down and wait for them and make sure they're okay. And it's just, I don't know. It's nice to have a little more power that you can work your way up to already than giving yourself only 300cc and then getting used to it and having to sell it. I think if you have a 600, you can be responsible enough to not crash that. And then when you get out to ride with your buddies and stuff, they're not waiting on you, you're not waiting on them, all that kind of thing. Trying to get some air flowing over this thing. She's starting to get kind of warm, and it kind of starts to run like crap when it gets too hot. It's definitely heat soaked right now because that was not a lot of power. Now we're getting some airflow. It's cooling down a little bit under the trees here. Feels pretty good. But yeah, as far as beginner bikes go, I don't think this is the one. I definitely don't think this is the one, and I personally don't think anything over probably 600 cc's would be a great idea in the sport bike world. If you're talking about cruisers, then that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But as far as sport bikes go, which most guys, when they start riding, want to start on sport bikes, I probably wouldn't recommend going any bigger than a 600. Now, that depends on the bike. Like a 650 Ninja, those are not like fast bikes. They've got some good torque to them. Holy rocks. Good God. So the 650s have some good torque to them, but they don't really have much top end. So something like that I think will be an awesome beginner bike because it's got the power to keep up with all your buddies. It's got the low end torque so you can, you know, get moving, but it doesn't have the top end where you're just going to be going 180 miles an hour like something like this. So I think it's a good idea. I mean, a bike around 600 cc's was awesome for me. I've been riding for about almost 10 years now. I got my cycle endorsement when I was 16. I'm going to be 24 in a week. So coming up on 10 years. And I've never thought, man, I wish I started on a bigger bike. I don't know. That was even part of the fun of starting on a smaller bike, 600. And maybe even if you do start on a 300, something to look forward to is working your way up through the bikes. I mean, if you start right here on the top of the line naked bike, most horsepower out there, I mean, one of the most horsepowers, you have nothing to look forward to when you upgrade. because you've already got the top of the line. So when you go to sell it and buy a new bike, what are you going to get? Just another bike with the same horsepower, just a different brand. And that was something I thought was awesome about working my way up through. I think I've had probably 6 or 7 bikes now. 2 of them were Harleys, and then the rest were sport bikes. I had, so I guess I told you about the YZF 600. After that bike, I bought a MT FZ09 2017, which I also think is not a good beginner bike because they're very torquey and you'll very easily flip that thing over. I would say it's even more fun at low speeds than this bike is, just because of how much torque they have. So I got a FZ09, MT09, we're going to call it. It was a FZ in that model here, but anyways, got that. I had that for, I think, only 6 months. I put about 5,000 miles on it in that 6-month time period during COVID lockdown. Traded that in for a Harley-Davidson Breakout, a 2016, I think it was a 2016, maybe a 14, I don't know. I had that bike for just over a year. I think I put about 10,000 miles on that bike. And then about a year and some change later, went on a road trip with it to Tennessee. Decided I wanted a bagger because I had nowhere to put my stuff on that thing. There's no saddlebags, nothing, no windshield, none of that. I'm like, man, I want a bagger if I'm going to be doing these road trips. And then right before I traded in the Breakout, we took my dad's bike. My fiance and I took my dad's bike up to northern Michigan, and that basically sold me on the bagger thing. He had a Street Glide. Just so much more room for the both of us on that. It was awesome. So while we were up there, I was looking for bikes. The day we came back, I went and picked up a 2015 Road Glide Special. And then I had that bike for about 8 months, about a year. And then I traded that in for this. All my buddies started to get back into sport bikes. I was not taking road trips anymore. This friend kind of stopped riding as much. We used to ride kind of long distance together. So him and I traded our baggers in and got sport bikes again. And here I am back on this. So I've got quite a bit of miles under my belt, and like I said, almost 10 years of riding. And I think when I got this bike, it was a good time to get it. I had enough experience to know how to handle the bike in some iffy situations and know how to handle the power and not hopefully kill myself. Knock on wood, hasn't happened yet, thank God. So yeah, moral of the story here, okay, well, I'm not going that way, is I would never recommend this bike or the bikes in its class. My brother has a Triumph Speed Triple RS, not a good beginner bike, I don't think. The BMW S1000R or M1000R, I don't think those are good. I've never ridden one, but it's just got the horsepower that this does. So I just don't think that's a great mixture of inexperience and being able to just ride super fast. What else are in this class? The KTM 1290 or 1390, whatever that is. I got a buddy that has one of those. Same thing. I don't think that's a good idea. Like I said, I don't recommend an MT FZ09 for first bike, but I definitely recommend having something a little less torquey. The sport bikes, the 600cc sport bikes, I think are pretty good because they're fast enough to keep up with all your friends and move out of the way of traffic and ride down the highway. But at a stoplight, they don't have the stupid torque that most naked bikes do, to where if you just dump the clutch, it's going to most likely flip you. I mean, if you rev up a 600, that's going to happen, but you have a little more leeway in the lower RPMs on a high revving sport bike like that. don't know this road very well, so I'm not gonna go crazy. But yeah, definitely I recommend probably a 600, like I've said 30 times already. I've only ridden, man, for 600s, I really haven't ridden that much, but the bike I started on, I really enjoyed. And even starting on a cruiser of some sort, CC's, you know, no one cares about that in that world. But just starting on a cruiser might be a good idea also. I really enjoy cruisers. After I get rid of this bike, I'll more than likely be going back to a cruiser, a bagger of some sort. I don't necessarily think a bagger is a great thing to start on just because they're so damn heavy, but some sort of smaller cruiser that you can get comfortable riding and good lord, and just get some road experience under your belt. I think would be awesome. So anyways, I'm just gonna enjoy the rest of my ride here. As far as recommending this bike as a beginner bike, I don't. Obviously it's your money, you do what you want with it. That's just my 2 cents as somebody who's had one for about 8,000 miles, 2 years. Oh yeah, thanks for checking out the video, guys. Like I said, if you have any recommendations on a better action camera, please let me know, because I know this one is old and just not doing it anymore. So yeah, I'm ready to replace it. I don't think I want to get another GoPro. So let me know on that, guys. Hopefully you liked the video. Subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be trying to put out some more content, but I'm just so busy. It's hard for me to get out and film videos. But I definitely want to stick with it. So subscribe if you like it. Check out the other videos I got. I've got some other ones on there. And we'll catch you in the next one.